Well, hey, good morning to you. I got out on my boat. I'm just kind of tied to the dock here, and I know my boat, every year I do a pretty deep clean on this thing. I have not done it this year, but I'm out here anyway. And we're going through the book of Matthew, and really why I'm out here is because God has me going through the book of Matthew because to many degrees the church is ignorant to the teachings of Jesus Christ. And it is that piece that is so important that we go through it verse by verse. And not because what people do is they'll grab verses here or there and they'll tell you everything Jesus was meant. It's important you do it verse by verse and you analyze it and really understand every word, and just it opens your eyes to the teachings of Jesus. And I was originally, God said get out on a boat, and I did, and then he said fish, so I did, and then he said get out in the woods, so I did, and then he said hunt, so I did, and then I realized he has me hunting and fishing through this, and I didn't understand that, but I believe that some of it has to do with the blood. Cain and Abel, one brought a vegetable sacrifice, one brought a blood sacrifice, and hunting and fishing is pretty bloody. So I'm out here. I struggle with fishing specifically while I go through this because of how distracting it is. Like when you're hunting, I just kind of go out and hunt, and then when I feel like I've blown my cover or have gotten something, I then go through the book. And fishing's a little tougher because I'm kind of fishing while I'm going through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, there's some catfish that come through here in the mornings, and it's raining. So I believe they're going to be coming around a little more. And so I'm just going to put a hot dog on a hook. I'm going to let it float near the bottom. And then we'll go through it. So, you know, I always thought hot dogs were kind of silly to use. But my wife uses them, and she catches serious catfish with these things. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to use it. My dog doesn't want me to throw this hot dog in there, and I don't blame him. All right, so we'll just see how those do. All right, where we are in this book is we're in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, and this is so important, and it's so incredibly eye-opening. I think most people go through this, like I've read through it many times. I didn't know who most of these people were. I mean, some are familiar names. But until I really dug deep, it really shows this path from the very beginning. Like literally from the very beginning, God made this path. And this entire book is about the coming of a kingdom of a king. And that king is Jesus Christ. And it's about, you know, from the very first page to the very last page is about this advancement of this kingdom on heaven, just like on earth as it is in heaven. And Christ will reign, and it shows that path of his kingship, and we've gotten to literally the lineage of the kings, starting with David, and he was the first in the lineage of Jesus Christ in this bloodline, who was king. So we're at this place now where we also saw the blood of Ahab get mixed in this lineage. So God watered that down, and how he did that. And especially these kings, he's holding them highly accountable, and each one is fairly interesting. Sometimes they pull it all together, and sometimes they fall apart. And so we're just going to pick it up where we left off. And we'll go to Matthew 1, starting in verse 8. Asa begot Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat begot Joram, and Joram begot Uzziah. And it was between Joram and Uzziah that God watered down and took out the blood of Ahab. Uzziah begot Jotham. So we're going to pick it up there where Uzziah begots Jotham. And we talked about Uzziah last time, and Uzziah he kind of made similar mistakes that Saul made, King Saul, which Saul was not in the bloodline, of course, but just Saul was trying to do what was right in the eyes of God, but tried to rush it and do it himself at times. And Uzziah is kind of like that too, and he goes to burn incense, and of course the priests, they stand up to him, like they literally stand up to him, and they're like, you can't do that. Like it is, you know, only we're allowed to do that. And in that moment, God gives him leprosy, and the only good that came out of it was Jotham, his son, was able to kind of reign and be the judge of everything and kind of do the kingship stuff while he was just tied up in leprosy. So we're going to go to 2 Chronicles 27. Jotham was 25 years old when he became king. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok, and he did what was right in the sight of the Lord according to all that his father Uzziah had done. Although he did not enter the temple of the Lord, but still the people acted corruptly. So I want to take a moment and kind of look at what's going on there. So Uzziah, his father, went into the temple and got leprosy there. And now Jotham, sorry, there's a dog barking off in the distance. My dog isn't liking it one bit. So Jotham, then, he doesn't go in the temple, but the temple people are kind of performing wickedly anyway. But he does what he can do, which is be responsible for the kingdom. He should have kept his eyes on that temple, and we'll talk about that a little later. But he is doing what he believes is best for Judah and Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the sight of the Lord according to all that his father Uzziah had done, although he did not enter the temple of the Lord, but still the people acted corruptly. He built the upper gate of the house of the Lord, and he built extensively on the wall of Ophel. Moreover, he built cities, mountains of Judah, and in the forests he built fortresses and towers. He also fought with the king of the Ammonites and defeated them, and the people of Ammon gave him in that year 100 talents of silver, 10,000 cores of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. The people of Ammon paid him this amount in the second and third years also. So Jotham became mighty because he prepared his ways before the Lord his God. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways indeed are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. So Jotham rested with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. Then Ahaz, his son, reigned in his place. So if we look at kind of what happened to his father and how that played out with him, his father, Uzziah, also was trying to do what was good in the sight of the Lord. But he rushed it, or tried to do it himself, so to say. Like, he didn't follow Mosaic law, because it specifically, like let's go back to that moment in time. Now, so this is Jotham's dad, and again, we talked about this last time, so we're not going to dig deep into it. I just want to kind of point out why Jotham is the way he is. So we're going to go back to when Uzziah, his father, was reigning, 26:16. But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction, for he transgressed against the Lord his God by entering the temple of the Lord to burn incense on the altar of incense. So Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him were 80 priests of the Lord, who were valiant men. And they withstood King Uzziah, and said to him, It is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord, but for the priests, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense. Get out of the sanctuary, for you have trespassed. You shall have no honor from the Lord God. Then Uzziah became furious, and he had a censer in his hand to burn incense, and while he was angry with the priests, leprosy broke out on his forehead. So here, Jotham now is like he's witnessing his dad, this, because he wasn't in there with them, but you know, he probably never got to see his father again after that. And he had to run the kingdom for his father. Because it says in 21, King Uzziah was a leper until the days of his death. He dwelt in an isolated house because he was a leper, for he was cut off from the house of the Lord. Then Jotham, his son, was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. So Jotham is like, I'm not going in there. You know, he's not breaking the laws of Moses. But to some degree, it was almost too hands off, because he clearly understood the things of the Lord that he was taught by his father. But the problem with all of this is that if we go to 28, where he dies, and his son Ahaz is born, it says this, and we'll talk about Ahaz next time. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem and did not do what was right in the sight of the Lord, as his father David had done. So here, essentially, what you have is you have now his son essentially doing, you know, he was 20, so he had plenty of time to observe his father, Jotham. But in the end, he goes the way of the kings of Israel, so that wicked Ahab and Omri, and he's kind of back to that nonsense. So it's almost too hands off, if that makes sense. A little too much hands off, because of fear, really is probably it. So there you go. We'll just kind of keep on digging. We'll talk about Ahaz next, and if I catch something, I'll put it at the end of this.